Hi everyone, welcome back to Minastech. In this video, we will integrate our microservices with Resilience4J. So before integrating Resilience4J to our microservices, we have to know what is Resilience4J and why it is used. These are the common questions asked in the interview. What is fault tolerance and why we need it? What is circuit breaker pattern? And did you ever use circuit breaker in your microservices? What kind of circuit breaker did you use for your project? Did you ever use Historic or Failsafe or Resilience4J? How does Resilience4J work? How did you integrate to your microservices? In this video, you will learn Resilience4J and you can able to answer to all these questions. So let's go in deep. Let us learn what is fault tolerance. So when we build a microservice architecture, there might be large number of microservices and they all need to communicate with each other. Let's say I have 6 microservices and my 4th microservice is down at some point in time. All the other microservices are directly or indirectly depend on it. So they all go down as well. To resolve this kind of issue, we have a solution to have fallback in case of microservice fail. So let's say I have employee service and department service. Imagine my department service is down. We have wrapped a code saying that when I give my employee detail, I have to get the department details as well. So but here my department service is down. So I will be getting errors all the time. So let's introduce fault tolerance in between them. So we will use Resilience4J for this. But before understanding what is Resilience4J, we need to understand what is fault tolerance. In our application, we have designed business service where employee service is depending on department service. Imagine my department service is down. Will I get the response back to employee service? No, I will be thrown an exception or errors as a return. So imagine if I design a circuit breaker in between them. Let's say I have created a fault tolerance which is circuit breaker in between them. Then it will help me a lot. So let's understand what is circuit breaker pattern. The circuit breaker pattern in microservice is a fault tolerance mechanism. This will monitor and control interaction between services. It dynamically manages service availability by temporarily interrupting. Let's say my department service is down, but I am hitting multiple requests through employee service. So it prevents system overload, and when my department service is up, it may bombard. So to control the request calls, we need circuit breakers in middle. Now let's learn what is Resilience4J in a high level. If my department service is down and employee service will not have any response, in that particular case, we will return exception till the department service is up. Using circuit breaker like Resilience4J, we can either stop the request calls to the department service. We can reduce the calls to department service, or we can also have fallback method, which means telling end user with a proper message like service is taking some more time and please try again later. Imagine if my request call is successful, which means circuit is closed. This means success path or happy path. If request get failed from employee service to department service or any other services, this means open state. After 3 to 4 retries, when it is in open state, that means every request which comes to Resilience4J get rejected by default. So we fail fast instead of calling department service at open stage. If request is in queue and department service is up, then unnecessarily we should not bombard the service call. In this case, circuit breakers are very helpful because to reduce the calls. One threshold time for breaching, then the circuit breaker try to go state in half open. It means if we have alternate third-party service or dependent services and department service is making successful, then it will send to half open. And if 2 to 3 successful calls happen, then it goes to close state again. In simple words, if my request is successful from employee service to department service, that means it is in close stage. If my request from employee service to department service is getting failed, then it is in open stage. It will try multiple times to hit department service. Based on the configuration, we can give multiple retries. And imagine if I have different service which is giving the same input to employee service. So until and unless my department service is up, it will take the third party service or other service information and it will go to half open stage. Now if department service is up, then it will try again to hit from open to half open stage. And if it is successful multiple times, then it goes to close stage. So this is what circuit breaker is. And in circuit breaker, we have Resilience4J, where we will integrate to our application. Now coming back to code, I have already integrated Resilience4J to our application. We will see what are the changes I have done. In pom.xml, we need these 3 dependencies to work with Resilience4J. 1 is the circuit breaker, 2 is the starter AOP, and 3 is Resilience4J Spring Boot 3 with a version which supports Java 17. So you need these 3 dependencies to work with Resilience4J. You can get these dependencies from Spring Initializer or from the browser. Once we integrate with these 3 dependencies, we made change in employee controller.java. Now in the controller class, we can annotate with circuit breaker, which takes 2 attributes. One is name and the other one is fallback method. We all know that employee service is depending on department service. So at get call, we configure circuit breaker with the name as employee by department fallback. And we have created a fallback method name as fallback for employee by department. Now sending back the response with response template Vivo, we have created a method which passes throwable parameter. And we have set the message as sorry for inconvenience caused. Please try again later. So we will return this response object as a JSON to the front user. So this means when employee service is trying to get the request from department service and the department service is down, then we are redirecting to fallback methods instead of sending errors or exception messages. So in response template object, I have added a fallback method string so that I can return my fallback message. When we are sending back response to the client, you can segregate the response and send back the actual message which was sent through fallback method. Now coming back to configuration of Resilience in application.yaml file, this configuration from line number 17 to line number 32 is on Resilience4J configuration. In this, if you have configured a single circuit breaker, you can write circuit breaker detail here, or else you can make it as default. We can configure all this in Java class as well, but instead of that, it's better we configure in application.yaml file. So if you see, number of trials or number of retrials, it is minimum number of calls is 5, which I have declared it, and waiting duration is in open stage is 60 seconds, which I gave. Also, we can configure permitted number of calls in half open stage as 3, which means it will retry until 3 times. We have made failure rate threshold as 50. Now this is the management endpoints we can expose as star or healthy, metric, and circuit breakers, making our circuit breaker as enable true and endpoint health shown details as always. So these are the configuration details which we need for Resilience4J. Now let's start our servers and check how it works. Great, all 4 services are up and running. Now let's go back to browser and check Eureka Server. So let's refresh once. Currently I see API Gateway Service and Employee Service. Let me refresh. That's great. Department Service, yeah. So all 3 instances are working fine. Now let's test Department Service and Employee Service in Postman. Great, I got a record of 1 and 2. Okay, so let me recheck the get ID as 1. I must get 1 record. Yes. Now let me check post and create an employee. Great. So department as 1 and employee as 1. This is fine. Now let me get these details, passing 1 as employee. Now this means employee is trying to get department details via REST template, and I got the department details over here with the status of 200. Now let's go back and stop our department service. This means employee service will try to hit department service, but department service is down. We should get fallback method message. I'm trying to hit this again. Great. So I got a fallback message saying that sorry for inconvenience caused. Please try again later. So this is how we created circuit breakers in between employee service and department service. If you have more microservices and they are depending on each other, you can configure circuit breakers in the middle. I hope you understood fault tolerance, circuit breaker, and Resilience4J. If you have any doubts, please comment us below. Thank you.